how do you become a motor carrier? How do you get your own MC and DOT numbers? What's involved? If you're currently leased on to a motor carrier, or if you're a company driver that's considering leasing on, but is also thinking about maybe getting your own authority, this video should be helpful for you. I'm not gonna walk through step by step. I may do that in a future video, but to actually go through step by step and like every website and screen and button you need to click and form you need to fill out, I mean, a video like that will take multiple days to do the screen captures and recordings and edit out personal information and just edit it to where it's like one step after another in the right order and everything. So I may do that in the future, but that's not what this video is going to be for. This video will be more just to help you kind of make a decision or gauge what your options are and how, what's involved in getting your authority. Just a broad overview. As far as I know right now, they're still using both DOT and MC numbers. They're coming out with a modus, I think. And that's one of the reasons I don't want to do a walkthrough step by step, because I feel like that information could be irrelevant if they're about to switch over to modus and just have a whole new system. So I don't like wasting my time. I don't want to spend all the time doing that just to have it be outdated, within a month or two. And it might be a year. Who knows? I don't have any idea on when modus is going active for carriers. So you can apply for a DOT number, and you can get that, I think, in one day. Your MC number, there's a protest period. Of 21 days. So you've got a waiting period. During that time, you can get your insurance. I got my insurance maybe a little bit too early. I signed up for insurance just as soon as pretty much the day after I got my DOT number, because you need insurance to do some other stuff. So I wanted to go ahead and get everything done. So I went ahead and registered for IFTA. And I would recommend go ahead and do your IFTA registration as soon as you have the information needed, and that will be through your state. Wherever you're getting your base plates from, I would get. So that's another step. But you'll get base plates. I don't think you have to get them from your state. Well, actually, so I think they do want to see residents or a property owned in the state or a business owned in the state. So you might have to use your own state. But some states, if you look around, they may be more flexible. But I just got mine through Texas because that's where I live. So you got DOT, MC, IFTA, base plates. That's all stuff you can expect to need to take care of pretty quickly. Insurance. And your insurance will be... I got mine's still through Progressive, but I'm looking at cheaper alternatives to Progressive right now because I'm coming up. My authority went active on August 1st, and so right now it's the end of February of 2026. There's something called BOC3, it's a processing agent, so you need that. That's really easy. I would not pay a lot of money for that. You can get it done for, I'd say, between $20 and $50. I had someone that wanted me to pay over $1,800. So there's a lot of people that you'll run into that whenever you sign up, I wouldn't use a real phone number either. Whatever phone number you give the FMCSA, that phone is going to get completely blown up with spam calls and text and all sorts of stuff. So don't use a fake phone number. Use a phone number that you can answer, but I would create like a Google Voice number or a prepaid phone. You know, there's different ways. Well, how I've got mine set up is I've got a second line on one of my Verizon phones. So I just added a second line to it. But I've got it running through a Google Voice number. For some reason, I can't automatically send those calls to voicemail with the second line on Verizon. So I had to create a Google Voice, and I've got it forwarding to Google Voice. And then my Google Voice number that it forwards directly to voicemail. So anybody that calls my FMCSA number, all they do is they get a voicemail message. So I don't have to deal with all those extra phone calls and everything. But you do need to have access to that number, because occasionally, especially when you're new, people are going to have to verify that you are who you say you are by you and taking a call on that FMCSA number. So make sure you don't just make up some fake number for it. So the BOC3 stuff, that's not something you should pay a lot of money for. There's a whole list you can get on the FMCSA's website. They've got a whole list of them. I just picked one off the top. I think I spent less than $50 on it. I think this is the third or fourth time I've realized I forgot to mention something, but you can pay someone to do all this stuff for you. I do not recommend doing that. It might appear at first that would save you some time, but that is, and I've got nothing against OIDA or any of the other companies. I mean, you could talk to, I think some insurance companies do it too, but I've got nothing against them. But I just think you're shooting yourself in the foot if you pay someone else to do all of the paperwork that you need to get done, because you're gonna need to know how to use all of those same websites. So as you're going through and signing up for everything, you can just save and bookmark them in your favorites. You know, I've just got a trucking folder in my bookmarks, and so I've got everything saved in there, so I can quickly access everything. So I would encourage you not to go through a third party and just, I mean, you could probably pay them a couple $100 or a few $100. I don't know how much they would charge you to do it. It shouldn't be very much, because I'm sure if they do it on a regular basis, they've got a system down that can do it pretty quickly. But it's not, I mean, a lot of the stuff, I don't think it will save you any time. I mean, it might save you from having to input data into government forms and on websites and stuff. But you've got your 21-day protest period. You're going to do a lot of waiting during that time frame, and you're waiting on whichever state's doing your base plates and your IFTA registration. So it's not like you're in a rush to do all this paperwork. You get your stuff done in like a couple of hours or a day or two, and then you're just sitting there waiting. So I would highly recommend you not pay someone else to do it. You're going to have to do all this stuff anyways. So you might as well just learn how to use the websites and everything initially. A couple other things I forgot to mention. ELD, so you'll be responsible for your ELD back end. So you'll have more control over that, which is good, but it's also, I mean, it's something else to keep up with. And there's I think eventually it'll be Modus, but we've got a FMCSA portal that we have to use. I don't use it very much. I wouldn't worry about it too much. It's not a big deal. It's something where you just go in, you kind of get everything set up initially, and then you might have to log in occasionally to check on something, but it's not too bad. You'll need a drug testing consortium. So since you work for yourself, you can't be responsible for doing your own random drug testing. So you've got to have a third-party drug test or a third-party consortium that does your drug testing. And you'll have to do a pre-employment drug test on yourself, and you'll have to be in a random pool that just, you know, you randomly get called. I'm trying to think off the top of my head if there's anything more to it than that. I'm probably forgetting something, but okay. So one thing I left out is your states. So there's state permits, like a KYU in Kentucky. So you'll need to get a KYU number. You need to get your New York HUT. You need, New Mexico has a weight distance tax. Oregon has a weight distance tax. Connecticut has some version of a highway use tax. So here's one of the spam calls that I was unable to filter out.
Yeah, who's about?
But so there's those. Florida. If you run a spread, I mean, I always have to get an overlink permit in Florida, so I signed up for several states to order permits through the states as well, like an overlink in Florida, a blanket overlink permit for Florida. I signed up for pretty much all the states from like Nebraska down to Florida and most of them in between, so that I can order my own like oversized permits for. I haven't used that for anything other than the Florida overlink. Just I use a third-party service to order oversized permits. It just saves me time. At some point in the future, I may get to the point where I can quickly get on and order my own permits, but I'm not there yet. So all of those state permits you'll need to take care of. That takes a little bit of time. Texas intrastate. So Texas is a pretty big state, and if you want to pick up a load in Texas and deliver it in Texas, your interstate authority is not valid for that. So you need an intrastate authority or registration in the state of Texas. That's pretty simple. And it's cheap. It might be a couple $100. It's not, or less. I mean, it's not too bad. Another thing you'll need to do, depending on how you're getting your loads, you'll need to sign up for a load board. I signed up and registered with Truck Stop Load Board and DAT Load Board. Those are the only two I've used. I canceled my DAT subscription. Truck Stop is better for platform freight, and my limited experience I had with the two, Truck Stop was better. Although, if you've seen some other videos I've made about Truck Stop Load Board, I'm not real happy with the Truck Stop Load Board as a whole. But so need to get those. A fuel card. I went through a lot of different fuel cards, or I've researched a lot of different fuel cards. I signed up for multiple fuel cards, and I've canceled fuel cards, and I've settled on. So what I've settled on is I have 3 different fuel cards available to me. I have one primary fuel card. It's an affiliate link, but there's a link in the description to the fuel card that I use. So I'm not sponsored by them. They don't pay me to say anything like that, but I do get like a kickback, some form of a commission if somebody signs up through the link, just full disclosure. But I researched a lot of different fuel cards. I signed up for for the TCS card. I signed up for this, I think it's called Open Roads. So Open Roads is a fuel card that I think they started in like the RV, like they were selling their fuel cards to like travelers. And so they have an option for truck drivers, but after I signed up for it, it wasn't as, discounts weren't that great. I was very underwhelmed by it. I looked at, I mean, there's a ton of different fuel cards. I looked at the fuel card that Truck Stop, the Truck Stop load board, they have one attached to them. They're also the RMIS system. So, and that's another thing, highway and RMIS, you'll have to get signed up with them, give them your insurance, your certificate of insurance. Let me go back to the fuel cards, because I don't think I mentioned other fuel cards I used. But so there's a handful of other fuel cards. There's one of them, I forget the name of it, but I looked at it. They want you to go to some meeting in Tennessee, I believe, and it seemed like they had there was some positive feedback about their card in trucking forums, but without them like disclosing their current prices and like telling me so I can make a comparison, like, is it worth it for me to drive and go to this meeting you want me to go to? Like, if it was easier to sign up for that card, I may have signed up for it. Although the one that I use now, I know for a fact they don't meet their prices at a certain place, and I can't really talk about all of the benefits of the Expediter card, just because that's one of the clauses in the agreement, is I'm not able to talk about all the benefits. So go check it out for yourself, and you'll understand pretty quickly why I signed up to use it, without me explicitly saying in the video why I use it. But and they also have discounts on hotels, and there's other benefits. They've got a tire program, but I use Mudflap as a kind of a backup fueling source if I got to a place where I needed Mudflap. And I'll compare. I still haven't had to use Mudflap just because the Expediter card has beat their prices, and I'm normally at bigger chain truck stops. But Mudflap is useful if you're at smaller mom and pop shops, and I think they're good at like Road Ranger. So those are the main two, and I have a backup like EFS card. I mean, and the Expediter card I use, that's an EFS card. But the backup EFS card I use is an RXO card. And the only reason I signed up for it is because they don't have any monthly EFS charges. So you can keep the card for free. You don't have to pay every month like you do for all the other EFS cards. As long as you don't use it. So if you're not using the card, it can just sit there as a backup in your wallet. And so if for some reason something happened with your primary fuel card, you could grab that. And their prices aren't that great. I mean, I try to never use it. I just tested it out one time. I think I put 2 gallons or $2 in just to make sure the card worked. But I don't intend on ever using that card. I want to make sure I can always buy fuel whenever I need to. The problem I had with the TCS card was that it wasn't a credit version of the card. And so most of them will have like a prepaid, like you got to load funds, and they'll have a credit version. So with the one I use, it's a credit version. Not a lot of credit. It's like $1,700. But the way that credit works, I'd hardly even call it credit, because it's like a 3 or 4 day credit line. You pay down the balance every 3 to 4 days. So it's a very short-term line of credit. So if you pay it twice a week, then you essentially have $3,400 per week that you can spend on diesel fuel on that card. And I mean, I'm sure you can just get the limit increased if you needed it to. They'll look at the number of trucks you have and everything, so. So, RMIS and highway, and there's another one, my carrier packet. So I think those are the big three. Truck stop, load board, they have, I don't know if they bought them out. I don't know the origination story of these systems, but truck stop and RMIS are under the same umbrella. And these are like databases that brokers will use to help you sign up and get a carrier packet done with them. Highway is kind of like a competitor to RMIS, and my carrier packet is also a competitor. So these are systems where it really, I mean, I know a lot of drivers, they hate them because it's like a privacy concern, but they're centralized databases essentially that vet you as a carrier, and then they allow you to more quickly sign up with brokers. So with Highway, a broker that you find on the load board, they can send you a link to join them under Highway or become an approved carrier with them. And so all your information's already in Highway, so you just will be able to quickly click through. I mean, if you actually want to read the agreements in full, I'm sure you can do that. That would take a lot of time. I generally just, if I have a bad experience, I'll make the decision after the fact. If I get burned one time by a broker, that's okay. It's not worth it for me to read through every contract before I sign it. So I'm trying to click through. I'm just trying to get to the next load quickly. So I use Highway, I use RMIS, I use my carrier packet. And you'll have all of your information in there. That's how you can sign up. And then some brokers, especially the smaller brokers, they'll just have a carrier packet they'll send to you. It's a PDF document. You'll need to fill it out, sign it, and send it back to them. That's kind of how that process works. The invoicing will be different if you've never owned a business before. Invoicing is different than just sending a proof of delivery in to your carrier and then them paying you that week or the next week. So I don't use any customer management system or client management system, TMS or CRM. I don't use anything like that. All I do is operate off of Google Sheets, and I've got a spreadsheet it's got an invoice page that is for the actual invoice that I'm trying to generate. I've got a customers page, then I've got a loads page. So I type new customer information into the customers page. Once they're in the customer spreadsheet, I don't have to add them when I do another load for them. And then I've got the loads. Every time I do a new load, I always have to add a new load to track it. And so the loads always get put in with their unique identifiers, the load number, freight bill number, whatever they call it. I've just got a single column that's dedicated to that. And then on my invoice page, that invoice will pull, I got a drop down list, so I can just select the freight bill or the load number, and it'll pre-populate everything from that load on the load spreadsheet. And then the customer information, it's another drop down list. It'll pre-populate everything for that customer. So as soon as I do those two drop downs and just select the load number and the customer, my invoice is already done because the load has the price we agreed on for the rate con, and so it's ready to go. And it's got the date, the pickup date, the delivery date. And a lot of times I've already got my invoice already done, and I've exported it as a PDF, so I've saved it under that broker's folder. And so whenever I finish a load, all I have to do is literally just send an email to their accounting department or their accounts payable, whichever email they use for invoicing. And so I'll have the pictures of the proof of delivery, I'll have the rate con that we originally agreed to in their folder, and then I'll have, sometimes I forget to do it, and I'll have to do the invoice stuff like right after I deliver the load. But I mean, it's real quick, assuming I've already put the customer information in there. And so I'll just generate the invoice, save it in their folder, and then I email that to them, and that's it. So it's already got everything on there. It's already got my stuff that's all pre-done, and I've got, so if there's like detention, I've had to use detention, and my invoice system doesn't, I mean, there's no automated part to the detention, but there's extra room below the line haul. I just go in and I manually add the detention, and then it's, my total for the invoice is set to add up all the cells right below the line haul, so it automatically calculates the total of the invoice. That's pretty much my, I probably left something out. So in another video, I just went through my new entrant safety audit recently, and I did a more in-depth video on that. If you're watching this video and you still have more questions, go check out the safety audit video that I did. I'll put a link or a card up in the top of the video or link in the description. But I go into more depth on that video about driver qualification files and everything that you need to prepare for a new entrant safety audit, which I believe they do for all carriers within your first 12 to 18 months. But that would be a good video to check out if you haven't, if you're not a subscriber, hadn't watched it already. So you'll also have to file your IFTA and all of the different state weight distance tax states and the New York cut stuff. So you have to file for those quarterly, even if you have zeros. Oregon is the only one you don't. Like Oregon I'm set up with, but I'm set up with them in a way where I just, if I'm going to Oregon, I call them or I jump on their website real quick and I'll buy like a temporary pass. I think if I use that too much, I'll be required to actually log my miles with them every month or quarterly or yearly. And Florida, one of the benefits of having your own authority versus being signed on with a carrier is not having to go through all the ag sites in Florida. So I use Best Pass to pay for tolls and it's like a way station bypass. But the Florida Agriculture Department, they also use that system. Well, for years, I kept having to go through all those ag sites, and they're normally right before or right after a way station. So you get up to speed, and then you got to stop again, and you got to get back up to speed. So you waste a lot of fuel at the way stations and ag sites in Florida. Well, if you're not hauling agriculture products, you can sign up through, I mean, I went through pre-pass. They had a form to fill out, and they sent it off to Agriculture Department in Florida. So I'm set up to bypass those, and they recently emailed me, and what you have to do is you have to save all your bill of ladings, and then you've got to send them into the Department of Revenue in Florida. Well, I got to the point just recently where it was time for me to submit all my fourth quarter BOLs, and I did that. I just uploaded a batch file or a zip file to their Department of Revenue, and then I emailed.
Stay in the left 2 lanes.
I emailed. They gave me a contact that I could call or email, so I emailed him and just asked him if I was supposed to fill something else out. And he basically did like a little email interview with me, asked me what I hauled, who I delivered to, and he told me he's put me on the good list of carriers that do not have to even submit BOLs anymore. So now I don't even have to, I mean, I'm still going to keep up with all my Florida BOLs. He said if I'm hauling something other than what I told him about, I just need to reach out to him and ask him if that's good. And I've got his email and phone number and everything saved. So that saves a lot of time. And when I was with Lance, so they use your information as a motor carrier to authorize you for that. So if you're with a carrier that maybe they have a different division, or sometimes they do haul agriculture products, then I don't know that you'd be able to qualify for that. So real quick, I just realized I didn't talk about the time frame on how long it would take to get all this paperwork done. So your protest period is 21 days. What took the longest for me was IFTA. The state of Texas took forever to get me my IFTA. So while I had the 21-day protest period, I had to wait an additional, I think it was like 2 or 3 weeks beyond that before I could haul interstate, because I needed IFTA to go outside the state of Texas. So I ended up pulling interstate. I did 2 loads interstate within the state of Texas before I ever left the state, just because that took a little bit longer. So you might plan for that, but I would say, plan for it taking maybe 6 weeks would probably be a safe estimate. And if you're at another point, if you're at a carrier, like if you're leased on to somebody right now, don't quit and then go start getting your authority. I had to do that because I made the mistake of I leased back on with Landstar, and then they terminated my contract. I think I've done other videos on that, but so if you're currently leased on, you don't need to quit before you get your DOT and MC numbers. I mean, go ahead and get your DOT number. I mean, you can, like I said, you can get that right away. And another specific thing on the MCS 150, that's what you'll fill out to create the authority, is are you a common carrier or a contract carrier? I just did common carrier. I don't know that there's a big difference, really. I believe contract carriers they're hauling more dedicated freight, or they're hauling freight that they have contracts on. Honestly, I'm not a good source on that. I looked it up at one point and I determined that being a common carrier is what I needed. It was more appropriate for me. But do your own homework on that specific question. I'll shut up. If you made it this far, thanks for watching. Let me know in the comments. I'm sure plenty of people will correct me on stuff I left out. I may jump in and correct myself if I get around to it in the next day or two. But y'all stay safe, and I'll see you in the next video.